So I've got a few thoughts about John chapter 18. I'll read verses 19 through 24 first. The high priest asked Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. I've spoken to the world quite openly, replied Jesus. I have always taught in the synagogue and in the temple, where all the Judeans gather. I didn't say anything in secret. Why are you asking me? There were people who listened to me. Ask them what I said to them. Don't you see? They know what I said. When Jesus said that, one of the attendants standing there gave him a slap in the face. Is that how you answer the high priest? He said. If I said something wrong, replied Jesus, give evidence about what was wrong with it. But if what I said was true, why are you hitting me? So Annas sent him off, still tied up, to Caiaphas, the high priest. So the question that kind of pops into my head is, why does Jesus respond the way he does? Why does he say, ask them, instead of just answering the question? I think it's helpful for us to keep a few things in mind. One is that Jesus isn't trying to avoid being crucified. He's been telling his disciples several times through the Gospels that this is where his path is headed. It's not likely that he's just trying to be obnoxious or disrespectful. It's clear from their response that his answer wasn't to their liking. A little bit of background and observation on this passage and kind of the context. It's interesting to me that Jesus was first taken to Annas, who's not actually the high priest, as it says in verse 24. But if you read on further, you'll find out that Caiaphas, his son-in-law, was the high priest at that time. Annas had been high priest, and he was sort of the godfather of this high priestly dynasty of that time. But the attendant who slapped Jesus refers to him as high priest, so he's got that status. This is not a trial. The trial before the Sanhedrin is mentioned in some of the other Gospels, but not in John. I don't think it's even referenced here. But it's sort of like a police interrogation, if you will. The whole chapter has this kind of interesting structure where John is flipping back and forth between Jesus and the conversations he's having and Peter, who's outside the room, out in the courtyard, in fact denying him at the same time. Yeah, it's a bit ironic that Jesus is talking to these people saying, ask them, ask my disciples, ask the people I've been talking to. At the same time, Peter's outside saying, I don't know this guy, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's a bit of ironic tension there. It is Caiaphas, the high priest, who says, let one man die for all the people. Perhaps a bit of prophecy there. Following a bit further down the chapter, Jesus has a conversation with Pilate. And he pushes buttons there too. So Jesus says his kingdom is not from this world, is not this kind of kingdom that Pilate is thinking of, but it is for this world. It's just what Pilate and Caesar are afraid of. That Jesus is the Lord in the same sense. I'm confident that Jesus knew exactly what he was doing. And he had a purpose in it. Jesus was not afraid to challenge the religious status quo. Those who had been blessed in order to bless others. They were keeping it to themselves instead. They're kind of like a lighthouse with mirrors instead of windows around the light. He also wasn't afraid to challenge political power. And the resurrection then vindicated him as the king of this new kingdom, the real Lord. It's interesting, the New Testament co-opts a lot of terminology about Jesus that had been used in the Roman Empire about the emperor. Phrases like Lord and Son of God were used of Caesar. And the gospel, Evangelion in Greek, was proclaimed every time Rome had some conquest or the birth of the new king. So it's a direct challenge to earthly kingdoms as well. So what Jesus is saying to Pilate is, there's about to be a new Lord. His throne is not going to be in Rome. I'll point out too that Peter's failure is not in any way a threat to the success of this kingdom. Somehow we're all called to be key agents of this kingdom. And we're called to do specific things within it, but the ultimate success is in the Lord's hands. So whether it's failure or success, strength or weakness, confidence or fear, let us press on to see his kingdom come.